If this story touched your heart even just a little, don't scroll away just yet. Take a moment to drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because tomorrow we're sharing another powerful tale, one that might just remind you of someone you love. Until then, stay kind, stay strong, and remember, sometimes the smallest moments can change everything. The wind howled through the narrow streets of Chicago that night, bitter and unrelenting, cutting through even the thickest coats like glass. Madeline Brooks held her son tighter against her chest as she stepped onto the city bus, her fingers numb, her arms aching after a 12-hour shift at the diner. Leo, her 5-year-old boy, buried his face into her scarf, his small body burning, with fever. His cough rattled in her ears like a ticking clock she couldn't silence. There weren't many empty seats, just scattered passengers, most of them staring at their phones or lost in their own exhaustion. She slid into one of the back rows and tried her best to settle Leo beside her, his head lolling against her shoulder, his stuffed dinosaur clenched tightly in one hand. She whispered, "Shh, baby, just a little longer," rocking gently, praying he'd sleep. But the bus jolted, and with it came another wave of coughing from Leo. Heads turned. Someone behind them muttered, "Can't she keep that kid quiet?" Madeline's cheeks flushed with heat. She turned away, holding Leo even closer, whispering comfort into his hair. The judgment in the air felt heavier than her fatigue. That's when she heard a voice, warm, low, and calm, from across the aisle. "Excuse me," the man said. "Would you mind if I tried something?" Madeline blinked. Her eyes met his, sharp, kind, familiar in a way that made her hesitate. The man was dressed in a tailored coat, expensive but not flashy. His hands rested calmly on his knees. "I've got nephews," he said gently. "Sometimes a new pair of arms helps." Everything in her told her to say no. Life had taught her to rely on no one. But Leo was crying harder now, and she was breaking. Slowly, carefully, she nodded. The man, Julian Hayes, reached out and took Leo with such natural grace it stunned her. He held the boy close to his chest, whispering something soft and rhythmic. Madeline watched, stunned, as Leo's sobs faded into hiccups, then silence. The little boy pressed his face into Julian's coat and fell asleep. Madeline didn't know what hit her first, relief or disbelief. Her body finally gave out. Her head, heavy with exhaustion, tilted and fell against Julian's shoulder without even realizing it. She didn't stir when he shifted to steady her. She didn't see him slip off his coat and wrap it around Leo to keep him warm. She didn't feel him lean his head gently against hers as the bus rolled through the sleeping city. She slept, and in that short, fleeting moment, a woman who had long forgotten what it felt like to lean on someone finally did. Not out of weakness, but out of need, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Madeline Brooks wasn't alone. Madeline woke with a jolt. The bus had stopped. The city lights outside glowed amber through foggy windows. Her neck ached. Her heart raced. For a second, she forgot where she was. Then she saw Leo, still fast asleep, still wrapped in the stranger's coat, still in his arms. Julian looked down at the boy, his expression soft. He hadn't moved. Madeline sat up straight. "Oh my God," she breathed. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to fall asleep." He just smiled. "It's all right. You needed rest." Those words, so simple, so undeserved, hit harder than she expected. The bus hissed to a stop outside her building. She reached for Leo. Julian handed him over carefully, making sure the coat stayed wrapped around him. She tried to meet his eyes, to say something, anything, but the words didn't come. "Thank you," she finally whispered. "I don't know what I would have done tonight." Julian gave a small shrug. "You'd have figured it out. You're stronger than you think." She stepped off the bus, and into the cold. As it pulled away, she watched his silhouette disappear through the frosted glass. A part of her wanted to run back. Another part reminded her, guys like him don't stick around. Inside her tiny apartment, the heat barely worked. The radiator groaned. The fridge held half a gallon of milk, 2 slices of bread, and a bottle of cough syrup that was nearly empty. She laid Leo on the couch, pulled off her shoes, and sat at the table, head in hands, shoulders heavy with everything she couldn't afford to feel. But the next morning, something strange happened. Taped to the door of the diner where she worked just before sunrise was a brown paper bag. No name, no note, just a bag. She glanced up and down the sidewalk. Empty. Inside were 2 cans of formula, a bottle of children's Tylenol, a box of tissues with cartoon dinosaurs, and finally, a small, folded note. Figured Leo might need these. Jay, her hands trembled. She hadn't told Julian that Leo was sick. She hadn't told him she couldn't afford more formula this week. She hadn't told him anything. He had just noticed. All day, the bag sat behind the counter. Every time she walked past it, her heart pulled in 2 directions. Gratitude and discomfort. Pride and something softer. Was it kindness? Or was it pity? She didn't know. She only knew that no one had done something like that for her in a long, long time. Not without asking. Not without wanting something in return. And when the doorbell above the diner jingled that afternoon, when Julian stepped through, still in his coat, still with that calm look in his eyes, she knew she couldn't pretend anymore. This wasn't just about a bus ride. It was about something deeper. Something she wasn't ready for, but maybe, just maybe, she needed. Madeline didn't say much when Julian walked in. She barely looked up from the counter, but he noticed the way her shoulders stiffened. The brown paper bag was still tucked behind the register. He didn't mention it. He didn't have to. Instead, he just sat at his usual stool and ordered the same thing. Black coffee, no sugar. The silence between them was heavy, but not angry, just cautious. When her shift ended, she found herself standing outside, the diner under a grey Chicago sky, coat zipped high, arms crossed. Julian waited beside her, hands in his pockets, not pushing, just present. "I didn't ask for your help," she said finally, her voice low. "I know," he replied. "Then why do it?" Julian looked at her, no pity in his eyes, only calm. "Because I saw you on that bus, holding your son like the world was collapsing and you still smiled when people looked at you. That kind of strength, it deserves to be seen." Madeline swallowed hard, unsure if she wanted to scream or cry. "I'm not a charity case." "You're not," he said quietly. "You're a damn hero." The words hung in the air, too big for her to accept, and too true to deny. They started, walking, slowly, aimlessly, until they reached Grant Park. The wind rustled the bare trees, and Lake Michigan shimmered under cloudy skies. They sat on a bench facing the water. She didn't plan to open up, but something about the quiet made her speak. "He left," she said, almost to herself. "Leo's father. 3 months into my pregnancy, he said I ruined his life." Julian stayed silent. "My mum was the only one who stayed. She helped me for a while, but cancer's quick and cruel." She passed before Leo turned 1. Her voice cracked, and she laughed bitterly. "After that, it was just diapers, bills, double shifts, and pretending I was okay." Julian looked down at his hands, then said softly, "My mum raised me alone too. Bronx apartment, no heat half the winter. She worked 3 jobs. I used to think she was made of steel." Madeline turned to look at him. "I found out years later she once pawned her winter coat so I could buy sneakers for homecoming. When I asked her why she never told me, she said, 'Because love doesn't need credit.'" Madeline blinked fast, her throat tight. Julian added, "She's the reason I do what I do now. She taught me to look deeper, past the dirt under someone's nails, past the tired eyes. She taught me not to confuse survival with weakness. The wind blew stronger now, but neither of them moved. You remind me of her, he said. Madeline didn't answer, but she didn't turn away either. Trust had always been a locked door inside her, and this man, this stranger, had found the key not by force, but by patience. She didn't trust easily. But that day, in the cold quiet of a Chicago afternoon, something shifted. Not love, not yet, but something just as rare. A beginning. It started with a folded brochure. One quiet morning, after another sleepless night, Madeline was wiping down the diner counter when Julian walked in. Not in his usual coat and scarf, but in a navy sweater and jeans. He looked more relaxed, but there was something serious in his eyes. He sat down without a word, reached into his coat pocket, and placed a trifold pamphlet on the counter between them. She glanced at it, cautious. The Willow Center. Support, stability, second chances. Julian spoke first. We opened our third location last month. A full-service hub for single mums. Housing help, job training, free daycare, legal support. It's growing faster than we expected. Madeline raised an eyebrow. Okay. And? He leaned forward, his voice calm but direct. I want you to work there. Full time. We need people like you, people who get it because they've lived it. She blinked. Me? You, he said again, more firmly this time. You know what it feels like to fight for every dime, to hold it together for your kid when everything's falling apart. That's what our women need. Not someone who studied their pain, but someone who's survived it. She stared down at the pamphlet. It was clean, hopeful, so far from the messy reality she lived in. I'm not qualified, she said after a long pause. Yes, you are, he said without hesitation. I've never led anything. You lead every day. You just don't call it that. I didn't ask for this. I know, Julian said softly. That's why I'm offering, not handing it out like some prize. You've earned it, Madeline, whether you believe that or not. Her throat tightened. It felt like too much, too fast. A job, a second chance. What did she know about running anything other than survival? You think I'm some hero, she whispered. But you don't see the nights I cry myself to sleep. The mornings I stare at my bank account and wonder what to skip, rent or groceries. I see all of that, Julian said, and I still believe in you. She laughed, bitter at first, but it cracked into something softer. You make it sound easy. It's not, he admitted, but it's worth it. And you won't be alone. She looked up, really looked at him, and saw it. Not a savior, not a rich man trying to play good guy, but someone who knew the fight, someone who respected hers. She didn't say yes that day, but later that night, long after Leo had fallen asleep curled up with his dinosaur and a blanket too thin for the cold, she sat by the window holding that pamphlet, reading it over and over. Again, for the first time in years, the idea of something more didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt possible, and possibility, for a woman who'd only known survival, was the most terrifying and most beautiful thing of all. Madeline said yes, not with confetti, not with fireworks, just a quiet nod across a cafe table, her fingers brushing the edge of Julian's brochure as she whispered, "Okay, I'll do it." And just like that, something shifted. At the Willow Center, Madeline found herself surrounded by women who looked a lot like her. Tired eyes, worn-out coats, hope tucked beneath years of disappointment. But instead of drowning, she found herself rising. She ran workshops on budgeting, helped organize childcare schedules, even trained new volunteers. The job was messy, chaotic, and more fulfilling than anything she had ever done. Every evening she came home to Leo, who now ran into Julian's arms as naturally as hers. They were still figuring things out. Madeline wasn't the kind of woman who fell fast, but love was growing in the everyday moments. Leo's laughter at dinner time, Julian's calm presence after long days, the way the apartment finally felt less like survival and more like home. Then one afternoon, Julian took her to a construction site on the south side. Dust clung to the breeze. Blueprints were clipped to fences. Hard hats hung on steel poles. It didn't look like much yet. "We're building something new," Julian said. "Affordable housing just for single mums. On-site daycare, community kitchen, safe outdoor, a space for kids." Madeline turned to him slowly. "You're serious?" He nodded. "I want you to co-lead it with me." Before she could respond, a freshly painted wooden sign caught her eye. She stepped closer, squinting in the sunlight. "Leo's Landing, a new start for every mother and child." Her breath caught. Her son's name, bold and permanent. Her knees nearly buckled. "For him," Julian said gently behind her, "and for you, but mostly for him, because he's what gave you your strength, and you gave that strength to me." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. Weeks passed. The building rose. Madeline grew into her role. She still had bad days, days where the weight of her past crept in. But Julian never pushed, never tried to fix her. He just showed up. Every time. Then one evening, while organizing files at the Willow Center, she accidentally opened an email on Julian's laptop. It was from a prestigious investment firm in London, offering him a multi-million dollar contract to return as CEO, dated 3 months ago. Declined. She froze. That night, walking home beneath a quiet city sky, she finally asked. "You turned it down," she said, her voice trembling. Julian didn't pretend. He just looked at her and said, "I already have everything I want." Her chest tightened. "You gave that up. For me." He stepped closer. "Not for you, because of you. You reminded me what matters: people, purpose, family." Then, in the middle of that quiet sidewalk, Julian dropped to one knee. He didn't need a speech, just a ring, a hand, and a truth. "You gave me love. You gave me Leo. Will you marry me?" Madeline, overwhelmed, whispered the only word she could find: "Yes." And with that, two hearts once broken began building something lasting, together. If Madeline and Julian's story moved you, even just a little, we'd love to hear from you. Sometimes, it's the quietest moments that stay with us the longest. A stranger's kindness on a cold night, a small act of help when you least expect it, or the strength it takes to trust again after everything you've been through. Tell us, in the comments, where are you watching from? And more than that, have you ever experienced a moment like this? A time when someone surprised you with compassion? Or when you stepped up for someone else, simply because it felt right? Your stories matter here. This is more than just a channel. It's a community of hearts that have been cracked open and still chose to love. So drop your thoughts, share your city, your tears, your strength. You never know who might read your words and feel just a little less alone. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. A brand new story is coming tomorrow. One filled with hope, healing, and maybe even a little magic. Until then, stay strong, stay soft, and never stop believing in second chances.